Continuing our investigation into Final Fantasy X's official timeline, we're going to look at an interesting stretch of time, ranging from 800 years ago in Spira's past to 100 years ago. A time period which saw the growth and establishment of the Temple of Yevon as the dominant faction in Spira. If you missed the previous videos in this series, check out the playlist popping up as a card on screen right now, and you can find out about Spira from 3,000 to 1,000 years ago. With the Temple of Yevon now established, we can flash forward to around 800 years ago. Mihen founds the Crimson Blades, later known as the Crusaders. He heads to Bavel in order to defend the true intentions for its establishment to the Yevon temples. By this point, Yevon has grown considerably in power over the last 200 years since its formation. Naturally, the rise of the Crimson Blades, founded by Lord Mihen to protect Spirans from sin, becomes a cause for concern. As the militia group rapidly expands, the Maesters brand them as rebels, wary of any group that would challenge their authority. To counter these accusations, Lord Mihen takes a bold step. He travels to Bavel to stand before the Maesters themselves. His willingness to submit to their scrutiny earns their trust, and rather than being disbanded, the Crimson Blades are absorbed into Yevon's structure. Rebranded as the Crusaders, they become an officially sanctioned militia, operating under both Lord Mihen and the authority of Yevon itself. The path Mihen traveled to Bavel would later be immortalized as the Mihen High Road, a name that carries a dual meaning. On one hand, it references the road's high altitude, winding above the Spiran landscape. On the other hand, it serves as a tongue-in-cheek nod to Mihen himself, who quite literally took the high road by confronting the Maesters directly, dispelling any whispers of rebellion through diplomacy rather than conflict. Mihen founds the Crusaders' monster arena in the Calmlands. There isn't a whole lot to this one. The monster arena was founded by Lord Mihen in order for the Crusaders to train against captured fiends. Later in the game, you can also battle captured fiends at the monster arena. Jumping ahead to 700 years ago, the Yevon priest Omega is executed by the temples for the sin of high treason. By the time of the priest Omega's era, the faith of Yevon was widespread, yet its promises were beginning to waver. Even after 300 years, no summoner had succeeded in defeating sin a second time since Unalesca's final summoning. Doubt began to fester among the people, and few questioned Yevon's teachings more openly than Omega. Branded a heretic for his defiance against the temples, Omega was executed, but death was not the end for him. As an unsent, his spirit lingered in the depths of the Omega ruins, where over time, his resentment and power grew. Eventually, he transformed into one of Spira's most fearsome fiends, Omega Weapon. Approximately 500 years ago, Mihen High Road, the old road, is destroyed by sin and a new road is built. Our favorite historian Michin provides insight into the distinction between the new road and the old road as we travel.
Would you like to hear about the High Road? We are currently traveling a part of the Mihen High Road called the New Road. Naturally, that suggests that there is or was an old road. The road that runs below this new road is the original Mihen High Road. Hence, the road that Lord Mihen walked is not this road, but the old road. The new road was built to replace the old road destroyed by sin 500 years ago. But sometimes, standing on the old road and reminiscing about the past can be a pleasurable pastime.
From the safety of the new path, we can peer over a precarious ravine, catching glimpses of the treacherous old route below, a silent reminder of the dangers once faced by travelers before Mihen's legacy reshaped the landscape. And listening to Michin can also be a pleasurable pastime. Also, if you've made it this far and haven't subscribed already, what are you waiting for? I don't have a whole lot of Final Fantasy videos out right now, but the more interest I see in these videos, the more videos like this I'll make in the future. Otherwise, I have a lot of Phantasy Star Online lore videos as well, and if you have an interest in that series, please check those out as well. Anyway, back to the timeline. Approximately 400 years ago, Summoner Gandalf, not to be confused with Gandalf, defeats Sin with his final summoning and becomes the first High Summoner in history. After 600 long years, someone finally did it. Summoner Gandalf succeeded in defeating Sin, becoming the first High Summoner, and, in doing so, reaffirming the Temple's promises. His triumph not only solidified faith in Yevon, but also established summoners as true protectors of Spira. Gandalf's legacy set a new precedent. Summoners were no longer just pilgrims on a sacred journey, but guardians of the people, committed to deeds that benefited all of Spira. One of Gandalf's most famous exploits took place during his pilgrimage through the Thunder Plains, which are sometimes called the Gandalf Thunder Plains in his honor. There, he confronted the menace of the Cactuars, rounding them up and sealing them in stone, bringing long-sought relief to the Jose continent. This gives credence to Yevon's teachings, and doubts about the temples subside. It took 600 years for Yevon's teachings to finally bear fruit, and in that time, uprisings like Omega's rebellion had shaken the faith of many. So, when Summoner Gandalf successfully called forth his final Aeon and vanquished Sin, it marked a turning point in Yevon's history. The aftermath of Gandalf's battle was etched into the very landscape of Spira. The Scar of the Calm Lands, a vast chasm torn into the earth, stood as a testament of the clash. His victory also ushered in Gandalf's calm, a brief but much-needed respite where Sin vanished from Spira, giving the people a fleeting taste of peace. The third Sin appears publicly, with Gandalf's final Aeon as its core. A core tenet of Yevon's teachings remains unchanged. Sin would not truly disappear until the people had prayed and repented enough for the past sins of the hedonistic Machina civilizations. And so, despite Gandalf's heroic sacrifice and the temporary peace of Gandalf's calm, Sin inevitably returned, reinforcing the cycle of despair and devotion that kept Yevon's grip on Spira unshaken. Approximately 230 years ago, Summoner O'Holland, a former Blitzball player, defeats Sin with his final summoning and becomes a High Summoner. O'Holland, a legendary Blitzball champion for the Kilika Beasts and Waka's personal hero, becomes the third summoner to bring about a calm. His victory over Sin earned him the title of High Summoner, making him the second in history to achieve this monumental feat. As had become the pattern, O'Holland's calm came to an end with the inevitable return of Sin, this time with O'Holland's own final Aeon at its core, twisted into the very force he once fought to defeat. Jumping ahead to 100 years ago, Summoner Yevon, a former Crusader, defeats Sin with her final summoning and becomes a High Summoner. Yevon became the first female High Summoner, excluding Yunalesca, who never held the title, as she performed the final summoning before the Temple of Yevon was ever founded. Before taking up the mantle of Summoner, Yevon was a dedicated crusader, solidifying her legacy as a warrior who fought for the people of Spira. In Sanarkhan's Dome, we briefly glimpse a memory of her clad in crusader garb, as a fellow crusader turned guardian solemnly offers to become her final Aeon. She would have accepted this pledge just as her predecessors had, using her guardian in the final summoning to bring about Yevon's calm. But as always, this cycle endured. Her final Aeon would one day be twisted into the next incarnation of Sin. In the next part of this video series, we'll be looking at Spira's timeline approximately 50 years ago, which means we'll be entering a time period that we're a little more familiar with, including a lot of recognizable names and faces. Otherwise, Final Fantasy videos you can click through are popping on screen right now.